The baby monitor turned on by itself at 2:11 a.m. I woke to a soft electronic click. At first, I thought Nina had touched it. She was asleep beside me. The screen glowed on the nightstand. There was a nursery on it. Not ours. White walls. A new crib. A crescent-shaped nightlight glowing beside a rocking chair. Paper moons hung above the crib, perfectly still. I stared at the screen. Then I noticed something that made my stomach tighten. The crib was facing the wrong direction. Ours faced the window. This one faced the door. Nina. She opened one eye. What? Look at the monitor. She sat up. The moment she saw the screen, she stopped breathing. That's not our room. I know. Neither of us moved. The audio was completely clean. No static. No interference. No sound from the street. Just a faint electronic hum. And somewhere far away, a clock ticking. Nina leaned closer. Are we picking up someone else's monitor? It's encrypted. So this shouldn't be possible. I reached for the monitor. Before my fingers touched it, the crescent night light became brighter. Nina looked at me. You did that? No. We watched the light. Then I had an idea. I leaned toward the microphone. If you can hear me. I paused. Blink the light. Nothing. 5 seconds. 10. Then, blink. Nina grabbed my arm. Neither of us spoke. I whispered, do it twice. The light stayed dark. Then, several seconds later, blink, blink. Nina pulled away from me. Turn it off. I didn't. Instead, I whispered, move the mobile. The paper moons began turning. Slowly. 1/4 rotation. Then they stopped. A tiny rattle came through the speaker. The sound of the strings moving in a room we had never entered. Nina stared at the screen. It heard you. I swallowed. The room on the monitor looked completely still. But suddenly, I had the unmistakable feeling that something inside it was waiting for our next command. Check Rowan. Nina was already out of bed. Our son's nursery was down the hall. The door still stuck slightly at the top, exactly as it always did. The purifier made its familiar low wheezing sound. The rocker had the same dent in the cushion. Everything was normal. Rowan was asleep, face down, one fist tucked beneath his cheek. His little lamb lay beside him, one ear torn from where he'd been chewing it earlier. Nina touched the tiny birthmark beneath his left ear. He's fine. I nodded. For a moment, the fear seemed ridiculous. Maybe it was some strange interference. Maybe there was an explanation. Then we returned to our bedroom. The monitor was still on. The unknown nursery hadn't changed. Except for one thing. The door was open. It had been closed. Now it stood 2 inches wide. Nina stared at it. Did you see that? No. Neither did I. Something brushed against the other side of the doorway. Soft. Careful. Like someone walking through a sleeping child's room without wanting to wake him. Nina whispered, turn it off. I pressed the power button. The screen went black. For half a second. Then it turned back on. The camera angle had changed. It was closer to the crib. I looked at Nina. How is it doing that? She didn't answer. We were both listening. There was another sound underneath the electronic hum. A child's breathing. Slow. Heavy. Familiar. Nina's face went pale. Don't. I knew exactly what she meant. But I whispered it anyway. Rowan. The monitor answered. Not with a word. With a tiny swallowed hum. The exact sound our son made whenever he was coming out of a dream. Nina covered her mouth. That wasn't possible. On the screen, something moved beneath the blanket. One small arm slipped free. Gray pajamas. Mountain pattern. Our pajamas. The camera moved closer. I could see the lamb beside the child's head. The torn ear. Nina whispered. No. I picked up the monitor. The child on the screen was Rowan. Not similar. Not someone who looked like him. Rowan. Same pajamas. Same hair. Same lamb. Same birthmark. I ran. We reached our nursery. Rowan was still asleep. I picked him up. His warm body settled against my chest. His breathing was real. His weight was real. His heartbeat was real. I looked at the monitor. The other Rowan was still sleeping in the other crib. Nina stared at the screen. Show his ear. I brought the monitor closer. Show his ear. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the child on the screen slowly rolled over. His left ear became visible. The tiny dark birthmark was there. Nina lifted Rowan's hair. The same mark was there. She looked from our son to the screen. Then she whispered, "It knows him." I shook my head. "No." She looked at me. "It knows us." We took the monitor back to our bedroom. We tried everything. Reset. Power cycle. Wi-Fi off. Router unplugged. The camera remained on. The nursery stayed perfectly clear. That was when I noticed something strange. The room was changing. At first, it was barely noticeable. The unknown nursery's walls had been completely white. Now there was a small gray mark near the floor. I stared at it. "Nina." She came closer. "That's the mark beside our nursery door." I looked toward the hallway. Our nursery had a long scratch near the bottom of the frame. I turned back to the monitor. The scratch was there too. Nina stepped backward. "No." I looked at our nursery again. Then the screen. The other room wasn't simply showing us a nursery. It was copying ours. And it wasn't copying what our room looked like. It was copying what our room was becoming. Our rocker had a dent. On the monitor, the rocker was still perfect. Then I watched. Slowly, the cushion sank. A dent appeared. At the same moment, our rocker creaked behind us. Nina turned. The dent in our chair had deepened. She whispered, "It's copying us." "No." I stared at the monitor. "It's copying us slightly ahead." The humidifier in our nursery clicked. 1 second later, the same click came through the monitor. Our hallway light flickered. The light inside the other nursery flickered too. Nina's breathing became shallow. "What happens if we do something?" I looked at her. "What?" She pointed toward our nursery. "Something it hasn't seen yet." I understood. I picked up the torn lamb. On the monitor, the other lamb still had its torn ear. I took a pair of scissors. Nina grabbed my wrist. "What are you doing?" "Testing it." I cut a tiny thread from the lamb's blanket. Nothing happened. Then I heard it. A soft ripping sound. From the monitor. The other lamb's blanket had just changed. The same thread was missing. Nina stared at me. "It copied it." I looked at Rowan. He was awake now, watching us. Then he started crying. We both turned toward him. His crying stopped. At the exact same moment, the other Rowan on the monitor stopped crying too. Nina whispered, "It can hear him." I looked at the screen, then at our son. "Can it hear everything?" Before she could answer, the monitor speaker produced a faint sound. A whisper, almost too quiet to understand. I leaned closer. It sounded like breathing. Then, a word. "Mom." Nina froze. We decided to leave. Immediately. Coats, keys, phone, Rowan. Nothing else mattered. I called 911. The call connected instantly. No ringing. No operator. Just silence. Then a faint electronic hum came through the phone. The same hum from the monitor. I pulled the phone away from my ear. "Nina." She looked at me. "What?" I couldn't answer. I hung up. Then the monitor chimed. We both looked down. The unknown nursery had changed again. The camera was now pointed toward the doorway. The door was completely open. Beyond it was a hallway. Our hallway. Same carpet. Same pictures. Same lamp. Same scratch on the wall. But at the end of the hallway was a nursery door. And someone was standing beside it. A small figure. A child. Facing away from the camera. Nina grabbed my wrist. "That's not Rowan." "No." The figure didn't move. Then slowly, turned its head. The monitor image distorted. For one frame, the child's face disappeared. Then the picture returned. The hallway was empty. The nursery door slammed shut. At that exact moment, our nursery door slammed shut too. Rowan started crying. I ran to him. The door opened. But something was wrong. The paint chips around the frame were gone. The scratch was gone. The walls looked cleaner, whiter, newer. Nina stared at the rocker. The dent. Gone. The blanket we'd left on the floor was neatly folded. The lamb beside Rowan had been repaired. His torn ear was perfect. Nina whispered, "It's making our room." I looked at the monitor. No. My voice came out quieter than I expected. "It's making a replacement." We carried Rowan back to our bedroom. Nina took him from me. "Check him." "What?" "The birthmark." She lifted his hair. The mark was still there. For a moment I felt relief. Then the monitor clicked. We looked at the screen. The other Rowan was awake. He was sitting in the crib, staring directly into the camera. Then he raised one hand and pointed, not at the camera, at us. Nina stopped breathing. The child slowly opened his mouth. "Mom!" Nina dropped the monitor. It struck the floor. The screen cracked, but the image didn't disappear. It remained visible through the broken glass. The other Rowan was still sitting there, waiting. Nina began crying. "That isn't him." "I know. He doesn't talk." I looked down at our son. Rowan was staring at the broken monitor. Not crying. Not moving. Just watching. Then he whispered, "Mom." Nina froze. I looked at her. She looked at me. Our son had never spoken before. Not once. He was 11 months old. The monitor speaker crackled. The other Rowan whispered, "Mom." Then another voice came through. An adult voice. A voice that sounded exactly like mine. It said, "Give him back." Everything inside me went cold. I grabbed Rowan. "Door. Now." We ran. The hallway lights went out. Behind us, click, the baby monitor. I turned. The broken screen was lying on the nursery floor. The unknown room was still visible. But the camera wasn't pointed at the crib anymore. It was pointed at our nursery, the same room we were standing inside. I looked around. The walls were white. The rocker was perfect. The floor was spotless. The lamb had 2 ears. Our family photographs were disappearing from the hallway one by one. Nina stared at the monitor. "It's replacing everything." I tightened my arms around Rowan. "Then we leave." We ran downstairs. I pulled open the front door. Cold night air hit my face. We stepped outside. For the first time since 2:11 a.m., I thought we were safe. Then Nina stopped. "Where's the monitor?" I looked at my hand. Empty. I had dropped it upstairs. But something was sitting on the porch. The monitor. Cracked screen. Still glowing. Nina whispered, "How did it get here?" I didn't answer. The screen showed the unknown nursery. The other Rowan was no longer in the crib. He was standing beside the door. And behind him was Nina. I turned. Nina was standing beside me. I looked back at the screen. The other Nina smiled. Then she whispered, "You forgot something." The screen went black. For several seconds, there was only silence. Then Rowan stirred in my arms. I looked down. His eyes were open. Same eyes. Same hair. Same pajamas. Same little birthmark beneath his ear. I breathed out. We were safe. Then Nina touched the back of his head. Her hand froze. "Wait. What?" She lifted his hair. I looked. The birthmark was gone. I stared at our son. Then at Nina. "That's impossible." She didn't answer. She touched his cheek. Then his chest. Then she looked at me. "Hold him." "I am." "No." Her voice broke. "Hold him properly." I adjusted my arms beneath him. And that's when I felt it. He was lighter. Not sick. Not weak. Just lighter. His pajamas sagged against my hands. His head rolled gently against my chest. I tightened my grip. "Nina." She was crying. "What?" I looked down. The shape in my arms was still there. The pajamas were still warm. But there was almost no weight inside them. I pulled the collar open. Nothing. No skin. No chest. No breathing. Just empty fabric. The warmth was fading. Nina screamed. The baby monitor clicked on. We both looked at it. The screen showed the nursery. The other Rowan was asleep in the crib. The torn lamb rested beside his head. The crescent nightlight glowed softly. The camera slowly tilted downward. toward the floor beneath the crib. Someone had written 3 words in black letters. "We have him." Couldn't breathe. From the monitor came a soft sound. A child's breathing. Slow, heavy, familiar. Exactly the way Rowan breathed at the end of a dream. Nina whispered, "That's him." I stared at the screen. The crescent nightlight blinked once, then twice, and from somewhere inside our empty house, something knocked softly on the nursery door. Once, a pause, twice, then a third knock. I looked at Nina. She was staring at the monitor. The other Rowan had opened his eyes. He was looking directly into the camera. And this time, he wasn't alone. Someone was standing behind the crib. Someone tall. Someone wearing my clothes. The figure leaned toward the camera. And in my own voice, it whispered, "You can come get him." The screen went black, and the baby monitor clicked off. At exactly 2:11 a.m.,